Now that we know that Dark Tides of Bilgewater is leaving D&D Beyond permanently on the 10th of August, I thought it's time to cover the Chapter 3, the one that we hadn't talked about originally, Herald of Harrowing, the adventure. Also, there's been at least one of you out there that's commented on every single one of my videos, hey, can you do Chapter 3 of Bilgewater? So guess what? This is for you. You want to see what this is all about? Stay tuned. It's leaving D&D Beyond. I guess you could say that was a missed fortune. I don't know. Anyway, what's going on, folks? Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and let's dive right into that. I do want to say that as of the time of recording this video, though, I am less than 500 subscribers away from 40,000 subscribers on YouTube. I'd like to hit 50,000 by my birthday in July, but we'll see what happens. So let's jump over here to it. So I read through the whole adventure once, a cursory read through. So I can talk to you a little bit about it. It's a 3rd level adventure. So for characters of 3rd level, the main thing, right, you want to be characters of 3rd level because that's when all of the subclasses come online. And there's all the new subclasses introduced in the module, so that kind of makes sense. It's broken down into 3 major parts. And it basically starts in the Brazen Hydra, which is a bar. There's like a bar tavern brawl. Then you kind of choose a faction, more or less. Are you going to work for Misfortune or Gangplank? And you do some stuff dealing with ghosts and undead. And then you kind of come back. So let's kind of go through it. So it also says if you want to give them a level up in the adventure, give it to them after part 1. So it starts off at the Brazen Hydra, right? And again, as I've stated before, I'm not a League of Legends expert. I don't know a ton of the lore, really any of it at all. So these may be Easter eggs, and if they are, awesome. I just don't know. Also, to everybody who's like, oh, I can't see, can you zoom in on this stuff? Why are you watching a YouTube video to read the text on the screen? I'm just curious, genuinely. Anyway, so you're in a bar. And you meet a woman named Tala Kenton, and she's basically starting to tell everybody about this concept of darkness on the horizon. And everybody's like, nah, you're crazy. So she ends up squabbling primarily with this guy named Dane, and he's like, no, your stories are crazy. And she's like, no, they're really true. And then it basically gets into a bar brawl. Happens, and then you need to decide who are you going to side with. Are you going to side with Tala, or are you going to side with Dane? And that's going to kind of tweak the alteration, the way the combat and the way the adventure is going to run. Who do you side with? And it says Tala firmly believes that Phantom's ire will bring ill fate to Bilgewater, and Dane insists she's only fabricating such a tale to keep others away from her share of the treasure. So basically, you go through your brawl, you pick a side. And then at some point, what they're calling the Harrowing, which is kind of the name of the adventure, that happens. This black mist begins to roll in, and then bad stuff comes from it. So basically, you were either outside, you left the bar, or you're in the bar. And 2 of these bark beasts that we went over in the monster section, as well as a shadow, appear. And everybody has to roll for initiative. And then after it ends, Dane says, get to the barricade. Everybody kind of runs over there to Butcher's Bridge, which is this next section coming up here. Tala's watching you during this time. Let's see. If you sided with her during the brawl, she escorts the party to Gangplank's ship, the Dreadway, via a rowboat. And then if you didn't ally with her, you could try to follow her. And then essentially you'll also find out that Dane works for Misfortune. So that's kind of the next part this here, a tale of 2 captains. And you basically get to choose a side. If you choose with Dane, you're going to go meet Misfortune. If you chose Tala, you're going to go meet Gangplank. So basically you go, and if you choose Misfortune, you're going to get 25 gold. She's going to offer you to basically get rid of the Black Mist. That's the plan, right? That's the general plan. I want you to go take it out. And basically what she's going to do is, she says it seems to be ensnaring one of the wrecks at Bilgewater's salvage dock. So she says, I'll give you each 25 gold pieces, and you know, that's what you get. You can haggle her a little bit. And then she's going to give you each a powder keg, which is the magic item, the explosive kind of magic item, to help you scuttle that ship and point you towards the salvage docks. If you choose to go with Gangplank, it pretty much works the same way. I think this is, yeah, basically you're going to go to Gangplank. He's going to tell you the same thing. And then basically, if you choose to go with Gangplank, he's going to offer 20 gold and a place among his elite warriors. And he'll also give you a powder keg and one of the Dreadway's lifeboats to get over there. So now you're going to pursue the mist and take it out. So there's a couple of regional effects in the area here. All vegetation within 1 mile is blighted. Any living creature that eats a blighted plant becomes really sick and becomes poisoned. And it's all dimly lit. So you're traveling around trying to, this Phantom's Ire ship is being ensnared by these black mists. Try to make your way over there. There's a shadow kind of watching you in, like patrolling the streets amongst the mists. And if you make a high enough perception check, you can actually see it. And the longer you take to do this, the more the mist spreads. So the more those shadows can get a chance to get a hold of you. And then basically it's gonna, you can see here's our map. They have a couple different locations in this map, but ultimately it's going to lead to that showdown with that Ledros character that we mentioned in the monster video, and also we talked about the sword in the magic item video. So there's nothing too crazy as I read through this. There's a couple of like little mundane items you can get here and there, a couple skeletons, you get a breastplate, shadows, a specter, some zombies. There's some of those wharf rats that I told you that I really liked, running around through a tavern, the Peregrine, which is an old tavern. There's some powder monkeys as well. You can loot some healing potions there. And then the big one here is the Telemachus, I think is how it's pronounced. There's an abyssal eye, the sort of aberration giant piranha fish swimming around over there. But if you decide to go into it, so you have to cross, if you want to cross it, you got to make a dex check or it's going to get you. But if you go into it and check, you can actually find the Bilgewater Cutlass, and if you succeed on that check by 5 or more, so DC 18 or higher investigation check, you can find Dead Man's Plate in there as well. And then, ultimately, you get up to the ship, and it's time to confront Commander Ledros. And then they have 2 sections here, whether he was expecting you or he was surprised. And then either way, you eventually defeat him. And then it has a cool mechanic of similar to like a video game where you beat the bad guy and then like self-destruct sequence starts and you need to escape quickly. They have a scuttling the ship encounter. So it tells you that it has 15 AC and 50 hit points and is vulnerable to fire damage. When it reaches 0 hit points, when the hull reaches 0 hit points, it begins to sink. Any characters on board, when it begins sinking, must scramble to escape the ship before it drags them to the briny depths. Keep your initiative order from the combat with Ledros or roll again. And then it says DC 15 or 14 strength or athletic acrobatics check means if you leap from it, you land on the dock with success. On a failure, the character falls deeper into the sinking shipwreck, taking a D4 bludgeoning damage. Every turn on initiative count 20, something happens. There's a complication. And it's fully submerged after 5 rounds, at which point any character still in the ship begin to drown. So there are only 8 complications, and a 5 to 8, or sorry, there's only 5, because a 5 to 8, no complication happens. On a 4, the chunk of the mast falls, you have to make a dex save or take damage. On a 3, a massive wave overtakes the ship, you're going to make a strength check or be pushed 10 feet underwater. 2, a barrel bursts, flooding the shipwreck with dark energy, so you gotta make a con save or take necrotic damage. Or on a 1, ghostly blue hands rise from the deep. Each character on the shipwreck must make a strength save. And a failure, they subtract a d4 from their strength or dex check, the next strength or dex check they make, as they're being held by these ghostly hands. And then that is pretty much kind of the main point of the adventure. And now you're returning, you've done the thing, now you're gonna return back to whoever you chose. And they basically tell you there's 2 options. If you go back to Misfortune, because that's who you went with, she's going to basically send you after Gangplank at some point, do recon or whatever. Same thing for Gangplank. Then they give you other adventure ideas for Bilgewater. They give you a couple of other NPCs that you may or may not have encountered throughout the adventure. And then they tell you about, you might want to learn more about the Harrowing and the Shadow Isles. This is kind of where this whole thing started. And then for characters more focused on independent adventures, the setting guide provides numerous location, individuals, and even random encounters for the party to experience, but don't feel boxed in by the information. This is your game and your version of Bilgewater. And in the city brimming with scum and villainy, the possibilities are endless. So it's not too long of an adventure. I like the concept of the dual mechanics. Pick a captain, and that's going to change basically, I guess, pick somebody to back initially in the bar brawl, and then that person will lead you ultimately to someone to continue it on. So I guess the only real downside to that, I guess, is if you really wanted to meet misfortune in game, or you really wanted to meet Gangplank in game, and you backed the other person in the bar brawl, I guess maybe you could allude to who kind of people are tied to ahead of time. If people are big League of Legends fans, and then you know they're going to want to go meet misfortune, then maybe you kind of let it be known in the conversations up front that Dane's talking about how he works for this girl named Sarah Fortune, and she's really great, and blah, 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 or, whatever the case may be. But yeah, that's it. The only thing we didn't really cover is Chapter 1, which is the setting guide, which is just kind of like high-level stuff about it. Again, the homebrew, I'm sure somewhere it already exists on like Homebrewery and a bunch of other places. There were comments a bunch on the last video of people kind of saving the content so you don't lose it. I did a whole video on it. But the main stuff you'd want to keep typically through that would be things like the classes, the magic items, and the monsters. But the thing that is more than likely going to be gone forever just because of the nature of whatever's going on would actually be Chapter 3, the adventure, and Chapter 1, the setting information. I still don't know, and I don't know if we'll ever truly know why this content is going to be pulled. There's a lot of theories going around out there. Seems like it might not have been Riot Games who did the pulling, although that was the initial thought. A lot of people are saying it might be because Wizards of the Coast owns Magic the Gathering, and Legends of Runeterra is a direct competitor to Magic the Gathering. That could be part of the discussion. I don't know. I'm still curious what your thoughts are on that. And what do you think of this adventure? I tried to go through it at a pretty high level rather than sitting there and reading through everything, which is what I've done in the past. I'm sure you've seen that in some of my other reviews, but let me know what you think. Thank you again to my patrons over on Patreon for continuing to support the channel. As I stated earlier, if you haven't subscribed, I would really appreciate it if you did so. And I will see you all next time.